Good afternoon, everybody. How y'all doing? All right. You're super happy. That's wonderful. I'm happy to be here too, and I'm really happy because, hold on, let me give you the real full treatment, Jacquire. 1 second. Here we go. Now we are talking. This is for real. All right. We are very lucky to have Jacquire King here today, and is please. No. Stop. Let's do that again. We're very happy to have Jacquire King here today. Okay. All right. That's entry level. We're going to have to get better at this. Jacquire is an amazing producer, engineer, mixer, and musician. And we're going to talk about music. For those of you who are in here for the Hairdressers Convention, it's the other hall. Just saying. So let's introduce you for these people who may not know. If they don't read the back of records, they may not know who you are. So what do you do? Who you work with? Stuff like that.
Well, you can see my Kings of Leon, Tom Waits credits, but I've made records with Buddy Guy and Modest Mouse, or like a couple records in the last couple of years that are fairly popular are Kaleo, James Bay. I'm working with one of the guys from One Direction right now, Niall Horan, and I did some tracks with Shania Twain this past year. So, I've made a couple hundred records easy. So,
he's made some records. All right, and so he's kind enough, courtesy of Universal Audio, to come show us a project. So tell us about the project. It's Jamie Lidell, and how did this come together?
Quickly this whole conversation started around the Unison pre-technology. I was working on a project, the Kaleo record I mentioned, and the singer needed to be able to do some vocals on the road. And I was, in the studio I'm using an SM7, which is a pretty common and expensive mic, but I'm using a Neve mic pre, an LA2A, and this is how we're recording the vocal. It's like, well, how are we going to make that happen on the road? I certainly can't let these pieces of gear go out on tour. So I was like, well, I know the Unison stuff is good because I'd had a prior experience with it. So let's get a twin, something that they can manage on the road. And
this is the twin.
And let's see if it really stands up to the test that I think it might. And sure enough, it did. And there's a couple songs on the album where, 30% of what the lead vocal is comped from is the digital equivalent,
Do you guys get that? I know it's a little noisy in here. Let me rephrase. Jacquire was tracking a record with an SM7 and hardware, 1073 and the LA2 gear. And then the singer went on the road with an Apollo Twin, and Jacquire dialed in the same settings that he was using on the hardware, on the software, with the Unison technology. And at the moment of mixing, part of the vocal was from the software and part of the vocal was from the hardware. So if you ever asked yourself the question, is the Unison technology emulation of hardware mic pre good enough? That's your answer. It sounds the same.
Yeah, and then so fast forward to this, we started talking about doing a bigger project. Like, well, what's it like if we track a band, like do the whole thing in the box, as it were, with the Unison pre-technology. And there's a video that'll be coming out that sort of shows the comparison, because in the studio we recorded some of the drums through Neve modules, the actual analog pieces, and then we used the same settings, similar settings, because not everything sounds exactly the same, but the same type of units, 1073s in the box, API stuff. We use the vocal. So what you're going to hear today is all of this, is only the Unison pre-technology. So basically, the band was recorded into these units, and the film will demonstrate the A/B comparisons. But everything you're hearing today is this technology. I was curious for myself. It's like I was curious for myself. Well, is this really going to stand up and make me happy and feel like what I'm used to? It really, really is great. And then so it's also mixed in the box with all UA stuff.
So I propose we listen to an extract from the song, so everybody can get used to what it sounds like finished, and then we'll switch to the actual session, and we'll be able to listen to separate tracks. Does that work for everybody? Good, because that's what we're doing anyway. All right, here we go.
There's a part of me I can't find in my memory when I knew nothing but my mother's love. Now that same love lives here inside of me, and it's a pure love. It's a pure love. Yeah, there's a symmetry, there's a continuity, a time before experience, a time that was my innocence, and I wanna go there. I wanna go there. I wanna walk right back to love, right back to the beginning. I wanna walk right back to love, right back to the beginning. Was when it just started, when I knew nothing but my Father's love. Now that same love lives there inside of me, and it's a pure love. It's a pure love. Yeah, there's a symmetry.
That's Jacquire's work, by the way. There's a technical term for this. It's badass. If you want the spelling, ask me. All right.
Also, a great rhythm section. That's
yes.
right there.
Those guys are here. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful.
And what's really incredible about this is it was all done in one room. That's what you're hearing is the live performance. It was embellished. There's some overdubs, but just to sort of thicken some tracks and add some elements to the guitar and the trumpet. But yeah, that's the track in the room. Like we'll get to it in a second, but you'll hear the drum leakage in the vocal mic. And it's just like.
So I'm gonna play this video. This is a silent video that shows the setup that you were using in the room. So you can see everybody was in the same room. These drums are atypical. I think we could say that, atypical. And we can see how you got to sound them like this. And this is Studio D at Blackbird in Nashville.
Yes. Yep.
Which is the room. How big is that room?
It's pretty big. I don't know. 35, 40 feet long. I mean, it's a pretty big space.
But everybody was in the room, right? So the drummer was singing.
Amps and everything. Yeah.
Amps and everything. And you notice that there's not enormous amount of baffles or trying to separate anything. So you played with the bleeds.
Yes, I mean there you can see the bass amp right there, and it's got a. And I had to put behind the background vocalist. I had to put some baffles just to try to get out some of the room ambience.
All right. Oh, there's an organ. That's why there's an organ later in the track.
Yep.
It's wonderful too. All right. So this is the way records used to be made, but made with modern technology.
Yeah.
So let's switch to the. I have a question for you. So you have any choice of microphones you wanted for the vocal.
Sorry.
You could have chosen any microphone you wanted for the vocal.
Yeah.
So why choose an SM7 if you had like all the 67, 87s and everything you wanted?
Well, it's twofold. I mean, an SM7 I use quite a lot because it's a great vocal microphone. I mean, if it's good enough for Michael Jackson, it should be good enough for me. It's also, I was using dynamic mics on the singers to kind of control the leakage, because if I put up a 67 or a 47 in front of the vocalist, I'd have gotten a lot more room leakage. And so I was trying to get something that was very focused and forgiving.
All right, so do you hear that? The most expensive microphones is not necessarily the best microphone for the situation. Just saying.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's look at your session.
Well, we're not taking questions yet. I'm sorry. Are we taking questions?
We should do it at the end if there's time left. but we'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, we'd be happy to answer questions.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so you have your, this is the actual session from the actual mix, and I propose we start with the drums. So you have a bunch of tracks, they sound like this. They're supposed to sound like this. Oh, 1 second. Here we go, let's start from here. Is that wonderful? All right, so the way your system is set up is you have all your drums going into 2 main buses.
yes.
Do you care to explain?
I use 2 buses because
This
first
one,
the first one, drum bus 1, has parallel compression on it. I'm using the 2500 for the parallel compression.
it
And
sounds
then-
like this. Okay?
Can we pull up the plug-in?
Come again?
Can we open up the plug-in? and
Yes,
show
of
them how
course,
much
of
it's
course, of course.
compressing?
So the 10-in-1 is probably high pass or something like that. What are you using this for?
Just to turn up the high frequencies, open it up a little bit.
Okay.
Just focus the mid-range.
And then this is how much compression there is on this right now.
Yep.
So this is a new plugin from UA actually.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
And I know the real thing very well, and it's fantastic.
It's really, really great. And then you have a clean bus
Yeah.
that's not as compressed and has the same EQ on it.
Same exact EQ. This is not like, I didn't, with parallel compression, I use a parallel bus so that I can be pretty aggressive with the compression and then blend it in, as opposed to just putting it on the bus and then trying to get it dynamically to work the way I need it to and have that.
So this is the clean bus. Listen to the snare.
Yeah, the snare's way back in the clean bus because it's really forward in the compressed bus.
And then this is the 2 of them blended. That is a funky pocket. Why is the if you guys notice the parallel compression bus is dancing? What's that about?
Just trying to accentuate the groove a little bit. To mix, when you mix, you gotta like move faders. It's not about like setting static levels and EQing and compressing and like letting it be. It's just like it's gotta move and breathe. And you gotta highlight people's parts. You gotta pull things back, and just sort of change the relationships. The mix is like that's your opportunity as an engineer, or that's your opportunity to be part of the performance. To sort of shape it.
So, did you hear that? Yeah. Get a fader. Get an automated fader.
Yeah.
So that's great. So now, that's not it. There's more. Wait, there's more.
Good.
So you have 2 other buses. You have a kick and snare 33609.
Yep.
So how does that work?
Just to get some glue that's just for the kick and snare drum, and to sort of, because a kick and snare pretty much in the drum kit in terms of like presenting a drum kit, it needs to be really strong and really articulate and really forward, and so it's just a way to glue them together and sort of help get a really compressed tight sound on them and sort of blend it in, so that you'll see Fab will turn it off and you'll kind of notice how
Yeah, which is what I'm about to do. So I'm going to do a bar with and a bar without, starting with. Listen to the snare.
and the kick comes forward too.
Yes.
Like the low end punch, it's a stain of the kick drum kind of comes up.
Then you have a crush.
Yeah.
What's the crush about?
The crush is a separate parallel bus for just more like room mics and room tones. In this case, I usually record more room mics, but because I have the leakage in the other mics, I chose to not put up too many room mics for the drums. And so I sent the overheads and I guess the mono room mic to that. It just kind of adds a little bit of depth to the space.
Okay. And so the combination of those 1, 2, 3 kind of like colors
Yes.
make the whole of the drum sound. Does that make sense to you guys? All right. It's impressionistic drums. It's all in little touches, right? Cool. And you do the same thing for the bass, which is pretty cool. So the principle that Jacquire just described for the drums, the same thing's happening for the bass. What do you have on the bass? You have my bass. You know I designed this interface? I did. That's my baby.
Nice.
With George, yeah.
That's
so you
one
have
of my favorite plugins.
I love this thing. There's this idea there, that thing, that required some fighting. So you have low passes. You have a low pass. You have both the amp and the DI.
Yeah.
So you use both at the same time.
Yes.
Okay. So you don't use the DI just as a security.
No.
It's part of your sound.
Definitely part of the sound.
Let's listen to.
I think.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Yeah, it's the DI is balanced a little bit louder than the amp, but yeah.
Okay. So we could listen to just. This is just the amp. Actually, to be fair, let's just get rid of all plugins like this. This is just the amp raw. It's good sound. And this is just the DI raw. Okay. Is it the Apollo DI? This is the Apollo DI. It's nice. Alright. Then you do a little work on the raw tracks. So on the DI, let me get rid of the plugs. On the DI, you decided to do this. So you're removing a little.
Yeah,
What's
just a
going
little
on?
bit of the low frequency resonance where it's kind of getting a little too thick, and then just turning up the articulation a little bit.
And then on the amp, you're low passing.
Yeah, I did that because I didn't need on the amp. I didn't need the frequencies up there for the instrument itself, and I was trying to get rid of some of the leakage in the room. So
Sounds like this, the two of them together. Very nice. So you made sure they were in phase while you were tracking?
Oh, absolutely.
This is nice. And then let's talk about the buses. So you have your compression bus. Let's listen to that first. You have an SSL E channel. It sounds like this. Right?
Yeah.
And then
I put the same EQ on both buses, exact same setting.
remember, the same as the drums. You put the same EQ on both. It saves you from a lot of phase problems.
Yes.
And then Zener limiter. It's crushed.
Yeah, it's getting a lot of aggressive compression. Which, if that's all I was doing, if I was trying to get that compressed, something that approximated that kind of compression, and I was only doing it on the one bus, I was just like, well, all the fingers and articulation and punch is gone. So I'm matching the tones together to achieve, a whole sound.
And then there's the clean bus that has the same EQ from the SSLE channel. And then you play the two of them together and it all makes sense. Hear how fat? And with the drums.
And then we take it. Then I take it one step further, and I do a parallel bus for the kick and snare and the bass, because it's a real groove helper, And you can,
So for you guys who are like trying to memorize this stuff, the idea is to create different tones, right? Do you ever find yourself, because everybody goes after the show goes home and tries to do that stuff and finds themselves sometimes painted in a corner.
Yeah.
Do you find it difficult sometimes to manage all these parallel buses when you have a problem to locate where the problem comes from?
yeah, sometimes. I mean, it's I was mixing on Monday. I was having a really tough time with the project I was starting to mix. It's just like, so yeah. I mean, yeah. You just have to.
It's oh wow! I failed that.
I can, it's you all right?
I'll live. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, but I kind of understand what it is that I'm creating, and I've done it a bunch. So, but yeah, I mean, you have to sort of really pay attention to what it is, and go through and turn things off, and sort of, well, what is this adding, and what is this adding? Because is this my problem, or when I turn this off, does the problem go away? No, you know.
It's all about listening.
Yeah.
The listening is the part where you actually pay attention to what's going on here as opposed to here.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing to do from time to time.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, you know, Pro Tools is amazing. I mean,
Yes.
and I've been using it. But the thing is it forms bad habits of making records with your eyes, you know, and that's never something. It's just it's nice to have the visual confirmation and be able to, like, be really specific about how you can identify things, to manage them. But you should always try to identify anything first with your ears.
What he said. So let's talk about your two-bus chain. So what's a two-bus chain?
Just the final EQ and compression and tone shaping of the whole mix. And so, you know, so Fab is opening up each element. The first EQ, the Brainworks, is just a little bit of general.
Let's do it as we go. Here, that's the Brainworks.
Yeah, just a little general shaping. You can see I got some of the subs cut off, and a little bit of low frequency bump, a little bit of upper mid-range bump, and just kind of opening the top up a little bit.
So you're doing this, so you guys are clear on this. Jacquire is doing this across everything. All right? So imagine, like, it's not mastering, but it's like it's the finished product gets EQ'd and compressed all together. But it's happening all through the mix. It's not done at the very end. You do it through the whole mix.
I start with this. I have a template, so, you know, I start with this basic, you know, a mix bus setup like this. I balance the mix really quickly, and then I can kind of understand what it is I need to do to shape this, and kind of get that started. I mean, I revisit it over and over again and fine tune it. But this is where I'm doing the most heavy lifting of like getting the mix to be glued together and shaping it. You know, it's also like when we get to, so the compressor that's next is the 33609.
Coming right up. Here you go.
And you can see that it's on a very low ratio.
1.5 to 1.
And I have the threshold all the way up. You know, I wanted to only compress a little bit. You know, and I want to get as much signal in tune as I possibly can. And the recovery is really fast.
So this is what. So this is. So this is with nothing on your two mix. I'm gonna add the EQ. EQ's on. Notice how everything gets contained. And then the Neve.
There's a party.
See the punch coming in? So if you guys were expecting huge night and day stuff, that's not what this is about.
No, it's just about gluing it together. I mean, when we get to the tape emulation and the Pultec EQ, there'll be a little bit more of a dramatic.
So this is the ATR 102.
Yep.
It's an MPEG tape emulation by UA, which sounds really fierce. So this is without. With. Hear that? It actually sounds like a 102.
Oh,
it's mind-boggling.
It does. It really does. And you know, it's just like I love tape, but I'm not using it so much because it's a tape machine. I'm using it because of the tonal adjustments that it can give me. You know, because you pick a tape formula, a tape speed, a tape width. All those things have because they have EQ curves and a response, and so it helps me achieve like a certain frequency response and punch. I mean, I think what tape?
On this track, you are at
456. Okay.
456. Yeah.
Yeah. And
is that your favorite?
No, I mean it changes. I mean I probably use GP9 the most.
Okay.
But it changes, you know, and it's it just sort of depends. I mean, I kind of for this sort of like there's a little bit of an old school hip hop sound I wanted for this, so I kind of went for the 1/4-inch tape for the way it kind of treats the low end, you know.
That's
a lot
great.
of hip hop was created, you know, originally was created from sampling off of vinyl, which was, you know, probably before that was printed to 1/4-inch.
Yep.
You know, so it has a certain shape to the low end and filters it off in a certain way. So that's part of why I made those choices.
That's a good reason. Then you have a Pultec.
Yep.
So you're using here the two knob trick on the Pultec. Can you
Yeah.
explain that to these guys?
Well, I mean, the bandwidth setting applies to both the high and low frequency boosts. Okay, and so I have it very broad. So
Here, here, and here.
yeah, it's very broad boost. Okay, and so, but the attenuation knob it attenuates at 60 cycles and below. So basically, I'm creating this big low frequency bump, and then I'm attenuating the lower side of 60 cycles to sort of like rein it back in and not make it too tubby.
Yeah. So like you get all the benefits of the boost, but you can it doesn't have to be overt, and you don't have to blow out the bass.
Yeah, totally.
So and then
you can see here also, I just want to say that you can see how much of 12K I'm boosting. Quite a lot.
Yeah.
It's because here is the best place in mixing in the box, digital EQ. It's just like at my final stage, that's the place I want to sort of crank up the high end the most, because if I were to try to do that across the whole mix on the individual things, it wouldn't sound as glued together and as nice. It just wouldn't. That's just the reality of digital EQ, especially in the high frequencies. It doesn't really hold together quite as nicely. This Pultec is a really wonderful EQ.
it's amazing.
I mean, digital EQ is best used for like small boosts but more cuts and shaping. So I'm trying to like get things controlled and blended together to put through this EQ and like really then turn it up.
So to make sure that this point hit home with everybody, what Jacquire just said is like, for him, it's better and has better results to use one EQ across everything, to do one thing in a broad manner, than to use 30 EQs on the separate tracks. Do you all register that? That's a very important concept that a lot of people don't fully understand. If you want to add a lot of top end because your tracks are dull, do it across the whole thing, as opposed to add all the phase shift of 30 EQs across every track.
Exactly.
Cool? All right. Let's listen to what this does.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to do one bar without, and one bar with. Okay, starting without. 2. Yeah, without. Yeah. With. Fierce. All right. And then we have a limiter.
Yeah.
What's this for?
It just. How do I have it set?
You want to see the level that's in there?
Yeah. It's not really. This is not really about like limiting it in the way that like a record would be mastered with limiting. It's really just to address the peaks, just so that I'm not sending overs out the output converters, because when you do that, I'm trying to keep it just below where the converter thinks it's being clipped. So that's because that's the trick in trying to get loud music, is you really need to push things a lot. But if you push it and you make the converter do all of the limiting, because that's an analog stage. If you're sending a bunch of like over level into the converter's not going to sound good. So you just kind of fool the converter, and I'm just getting the peaks to be just under where the converter thinks it's clipping.
And you're not going to hear much of a difference on this. This is with. Huh. Without, with. Yeah.
I mean,
It has a sound.
It has a sound, yeah. I mean, it has a sound, and it's just like you choose the mode that it's in and whatnot. But it definitely has a little bit of a sound, but it's primarily there just to do peak stop.
So that's your 2-bus chain.
Yeah.
So on any given record, you're gonna see these plugins across your 2 mix.
Yep. Pretty much. I mean, most of that is pretty standard for me. I mean. Sometimes it changes depending on the record, I mean, for my recordings, this works really well. I mean, sometimes I get somebody else's record to mix and it doesn't quite work that way, so I might like change the EQ that's before the 33609. I might change the limiter, or I might use a completely different tape formula on the ATR.
Right.
So
I'm a fan of 250.
Yes.
It just makes everything sound slow.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really old and sticky sounding.
Yeah,
for sure.
I like it sticky. It's fun. This is. Are you guys enjoying this so far? All right, rock and roll. So I was given latitude to actually go over time. Do you have a few more minutes?
Oh, sure, yeah.
All right. So sorry, Leggy, no demo. We're gonna keep on doing this. Talk about music, what a concept. So listen to the vocals. I think this is very interesting.
Yeah.
Let's listen to the vocals in solo, and you can tell us a little bit why you did what you did. And this is the particular case because of all the bleed. But still, I think it's interesting. Hold on. Here we go. And then you guys got to hear the Jimmy singing in solo. It's just so good. So we have a lot of vocal tracks here because of the situation. So can you explain why there's 3 vocal tracks? There's
there's the lead vocal, which is
this one.
yeah, and then there's some overdubs, doubling, and then there's the rack, which says the first 2 rack is the second mic that he's holding in his hand, the 441 that he's bringing in. It's through an Apollo twin. With we had a flanger and the Space Echo.
The Galaxy thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so that he could sing into it as a live effect, and so that's what that's about. I added more effects, which we can talk about.
All right, so let's listen to it in solo.
There's a part of me
That's just the vocal.
can't find in my memory
A lot of drums.
when I knew nothing but my mother's love. Now that same love lives here inside of me.
So on this vocal, you have an 1176 on the track itself.
Yes,
That's compressing a very healthy amount.
it sure is.
Let's look at that.
There's a part of me I can't find in my memory when I knew.
You have a very slow attack
Yes.
and a very fast release. So what's the purpose of this for you?
It's just a really, it's to let the slow attack is about letting the articulation of the voice come through the higher frequencies, and I'm really just trying to get this compressor to sit on his voice when he's actually singing. That's why the fast release, because so when he's done singing, it kind of lets go.
Yeah.
And
you had an LA2 on the way in too.
yeah, on the way in, I compressed on the way in as well with an LA2A. I was a little bit carefuler. I didn't quite do as much compression on the way in just because of the leakage. I didn't want to paint myself into a corner, but I was probably compressing 6 or 8 dB with the LA2A.
And you're compressing about 10 dBs here. So we have 18 dBs of compression across the vocal right now.
Sure.
And then this track goes to a bus. Remember the bus system? And on that bus, vocal bus, you have an E channel. So you use this a lot. Is that because that's you used to mix on the console, or how does it work?
I've mixed. I'm more of a fan of mixing on Neve consoles, but I do like SSLs. And what I love about the SSL EQ is, it's like fully parametric. It has a very cool sound. There's a lot of VCA technology in that, which has that kind of amplification is very aggressive and has a nice mid-range gluing effect. And it also, SSL helps, the sound, especially of an E series, it kind of carves away some of the bottom end and the muddiness, so it's a good choice in this case. And then I also have the compressor engaged just for a little bit of peak stop, but it's also, I'm using it the compressor's there as a tone choice as well, because it has a gluing effect, and so it focuses it.
And that's very important. So why don't we do this? I'm going to bypass this the SSL channel, and I'm going to bypass the 1176, and we're going to compare the sounds incrementally. Does that work for you guys? All right, so check this out. So this is just the vocal take with the Nielsen preamp and the LA2.
There's a part of me I can't find in my memory when I knew nothing but my mother's love.
Hear nothing but my mother's love. Hear how it peaked out of the speakers. All right. So then this is Jacquire's settings for 1176.
There's a part of me I can't find in my memory when I knew nothing but my mother's love.
See how Stood out a lot less? Cool. Then we're gonna listen with the EQ on the SSL, but no compression, okay?
There's a part of me I can't find in my memory when I knew nothing but my mother's love.
And then with the compressor.
There's a part of me I can't find in my memory when I knew nothing but my mother's love.
And incrementally, it brings the vocal in check.
Yeah, it incrementally it's like it's almost like in the same way that I'm using a parallel bus on some things to kind of like get a little bit of an additive tone and bring things up. The dynamic section of the SSL does it. It also, I don't know if you noticed, but when Fab put it in, it got louder.
Yeah.
It has an auto gain makeup feature built into it, and so that's an amplifier stage, and it's just like one more set of good electronics that I'm putting the vocal through that is adding harmonic content and focus and pushing it forward.
All right. So what I propose we do now is we listen to the whole song and look at the video, and then I propose you come again. Oh, there's a twin giveaway. Oh,
That's
well, you're
why-
gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait. No, what really matters is music. You guys are here to learn. You're not here for the twin. You're here to learn. So let's learn by listening to these amazing musicians and this really great recording with this really fierce song. And I'm gonna play the whole thing to make sure that you really suffer before you get your twin. Here we go.
There's a part of me I can't find in my memory when I knew nothing but my mother's love. Now that same love lives here inside of me, and it's a pure love. It's a pure love. Yeah, there's a symmetry, there's a continuity, a time before experience, a time that was my innocence, and I wanna go there. I wanna go there. I wanna walk right back to love, right back to the beginning. I wanna walk right back to love, right back to the beginning. Can never know how my life was when it just started, when I knew nothing but my Father's love. Now that same love lives there inside of me, and it's a pure love. It's a pure love. Yeah, there's a symmetry, there's a continuity, a time before experience, a time that was my innocence, and I wanna go there. I wanna go there. I wanna walk right back to love, right back to the beginning. I wanna walk right back to love, right back to the beginning. Yeah, I wanna walk right back to the beginning. I wanna walk right back to love, right back to the beginning. I wanna walk right back to love, right back to the beginning. Walk right back, baby. Oh, right back.
Jimmy Lidell, Jacquire King, thank you so much.
Thank you. And,
Thank you so much.
It really helps when you have a phenomenal band in the studio.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. So that's it.